guys, this is DP0427 here to bring you another episode of The Watchtower. And today, since Hades away in Vegas, we have MrScottyMac back again as a special guest, and he might as well be a regular at this point. So,
hey guys, how's it going? Glad to be back.
Cool. So again, if you guys haven't listened to the last episode of The Watchtower where Scotty was on, go ahead and have a listen to that. And also give us feedback there and also on this episode. Let us know how we're doing, if you guys like what we're doing and what we can do to improve. So we're open to any comments and suggestions. So let's get right down to business. So for today, we have a couple of things on the agenda. So the last time we talked about Doom Patrol episode 1. So today we're up to 5 episodes. So we're going to talk about episodes 2 to 5. We're going to try to avoid spoilers, but if we can't help ourselves, here's your spoiler warning. So if you don't want to get spoiled on Doom Patrol, maybe be cautious about that. All right. Then the next thing we're going to talk about is some news surrounding the Suicide Squad movie, the Suicide Squad 2 movie, involving James Gunn and Idris Elba as interesting news. And then we're also going to talk about some non-related DC stuff, being Captain Marvel. So we talked about the Captain Marvel trailer in the last episode. This time we both went out and watched the movie, so we're going to give our thoughts on that. So let's just jump right into the first thing, Doom Patrol. So like the last time when we were going over episode 1, we're going to talk about our general thoughts, favorite parts, characters, anything we didn't like, and what we think is going to happen going forward, what we're expecting going forward. So, Scotty, what did you think of the last 4 episodes of the Doom Patrol?
I felt like they were pretty good. It was definitely on brand with the expectation that they set in the first episode. I was actually impressed with Cyborg. Uh-huh. He gets introduced in episode 2. I was really pleased, I think, with how they're doing him, and his youthful flavor, I think, is going to fit really well, when eventually he crosses over into Titans.
Right.
So the actor's doing well, and special effects are good. Still love Mr. Nobody.
He who can't
he's
be named.
So good. He who can't be named. Exactly. Yeah, he's so good. I really like the character dynamics that they're going for too. So you can very easily see sort of the pairings that they're starting to create. With Jane and Robot Man are really good, and which version of her? But
all of them are pretty good with him.
Yeah. And by the way, I think she's easily my favorite character.
Crazy Jane.
Like I don't get tired of any of Calamity Jane's possible personalities. They're all great.
Calamity Jane. Yeah. So I can see where you're going with there. I'm still sticking with Robot Man. He's so funny. I love Robot Man. So.
Yeah, his timing's really good.
And he, I don't know if it's I would say sometimes for some episodes you would think, okay, maybe there's an overuse of the F word here and there and F-bombs dropping all over the place. But Robot Man has pretty good timings. It's pretty, on spot, so.
Yeah, I haven't noticed. There's been a couple of occasions, I think, where it didn't feel natural, or it was almost like, wow, that's a lot of cursing. But for the most part, it just kind of slips in and runs, and I don't really even notice it. It just feels like it's a natural flow. So, that. And then, of course, there's the scene with the scene in Paraguay.
Oh man, yeah.
And that all goes south very quickly. That was that was the indicator that this is not for children.
So there was a one thing about that scene in Paraguay at the end with the little Asian dude who gets into the machine. Now, okay, here's your spoiler warning. All right. Tune out for right now. Okay. So the little Asian dude gets in the machine for too long, comes out. He's got all these different body parts and powers and stuff. Does that not make you think of Metamorpho, or am I thinking too far, too deep?
No, so that's exactly what I was thinking too, until they showed the raptor head on his shoulder.
Oh yeah, right. Okay.
And once I saw that, I was just like, no, that guy's an abomination. But I got really excited too, because I thought that would have been cool.
Yeah. So at least I wasn't the only person thinking that. So he's just a mistake. So that's all it was.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay. So I like how they made that whole Nazi fighting thing. That was cool. That was pretty awesome.
The one thing I could kind of take or leave. So as much as I'm bit of a Supernatural fan, right? So as much as I enjoyed Crowley as a character and the actor that plays him, I really was a little bit disappointed that they kind of went with a cut rate John Constantine style fill in for the last couple episodes to fill in the wizard or the magic piece. I was kind of,
we're talking about
I like
Kipling,
him,
right?
but I did
Kipling,
yeah.
right? Yeah. So actually,
Kipling.
I looked into this now. I didn't know too much about the Doom Patrol in terms of like depth. I only know like the basic characters, right? But then when I looked into Willoughby, apparently he was actually explicitly supposed to be there as a John Constantine replacement. Now there's a reason for this, because during the time of the Doom Patrol's comic, publication, there was a Constantine publication. Basically, Constantine's licensing was only for the comic series Vertigo, and basically, as a result of that licensing issue, they couldn't use Constantine's likeness in the Doom Patrol. So they had to make like their own Constantine, right? So I figure that at some point, the licensing issue no longer becomes a thing, because Constantine does cross paths with Doom Patrol, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, as Justice League Dark does cross paths with Doom Patrol several times. So, and I would imagine that Kipling and Constantine know each other pretty well. they both happen to be English, and they both happen to be practitioners of the dark arts. So,
let me tell you, I would pay heaps of money to watch that buddy cop flick.
Oh yeah! Oh my god! We've got a Kickstarter it right now. We can go on.
Yeah, exactly. Look out, Critical Role.
You're exactly. I was going to say, yeah. If we get this going, we can break some records. All right. So yeah, that was. I agree. Kipling's pretty cool. Now, what do you make of the unicorn head?
Baphomet? Yeah, Baphomet. My favorite part about Baphomet, like my favorite part, is that during the first prophecy, she delivers it to the tune of Horse with No Name. I'm dying. Like inside, I'm dying right now. It was so good. And it was like a subtle little throwaway, but it was so good.
And I have to say, like, there's so much on point humor. Like, there's just a lot of subtlety that's being put out in this series, and a lot of it comes from Mr. Nobody breaking the fourth wall, being the narrator, right? And then some of it also comes with the way, like, the characters have awesome one-liners. I can't even remember them all off the top of my head, because I've just been rushing through a lot of the episodes recently. But still, like, this series has, exceeded my expectations in terms of humor. As a spin-off, this is, I would say, a really good standalone show. I wouldn't even say that it deserves the title spin-off, because spin-off gives it sort of a downgrade type of feel, right? So, anyways.
Yeah, this definitely, like, seeing more of it coming out, like, now obviously we're in 5 episodes now, this puts a lot of hope for me into the DC streaming universe.
Right. The DC universe, right? So
yeah, like, I'm amazed. I can't wait to see if this is like this, I can't wait to see what the Harley Quinn restricted cartoon's going to be. Oh, man. Like, that seems like it's going to be insane. Swamp Thing will probably legitimately be a horror show, right? Like, it's going to be good. I'm really excited. I'm
really hoping also that Stargirl is going to be good too, because we don't see much of the JSA, because they're sort of like, I don't know how to say it, like they're the B team, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to get to see them. Or if Doom Patrol was the B team to the Titans, and they're the B team to the JLA, right? So I really hope that they do the JSA some service through Stargirl. So I hope that's good.
I had actually totally forgotten that show was coming out.
Yeah. It's going to be a good series, I hope. Yeah. So, and also we want to wrap up Young Justice when that comes out, I think in June, the rest of the season.
Baby.
Yeah. It's been so good so far, so I expect good things. So they've been really delivering on their shows. So yeah, I'm really happy with what they're doing. So, and hit us up with that collab, DC Universe. Yeah. All right. So, what was I going to say next about Doom Patrol? So what are we expecting going forward with this series? So we know so far, we've seen the coming and goings of Niles Calder with the whole interaction with Mr. Nobody, right? Then we got to know Cyborg. We got to know the characters a little bit at a time. It's kind of like what we predicted. There's going to be more character development in each episode. We got to know Rita. We got to know more of Crazy Jane. And what else did we? That was just about it, right? So, what do you expect going forward from here?
So it's really interesting to me because I don't really know. Like that's the thing that has me. I was expecting some sort of strong plot tie to carry me through all of the episodes, but instead it almost feels like it's episodic storylines with occasional, two episode spans. But I actually kind of like it that way. All
right. So here's a spoiler for all of those who haven't watched the 5th episode. All right. Here's your 2-second warning. So at the end of the last episode, you have Crazy Jane, and she hears whispers upon high, which is Mr. Nobody, telling her something in her ear, and she ends the episode with, "What the is the Doom Patrol?" is her literal quotation. So, so what do you take from that?
I think Mr. Nobody needs them to be a team for some reason, and it's almost like he's been slowly, magnetoing them into shape, I guess is the best way for me to put it for all of you comic folks out there. But I really don't know. I think it really just becomes he needs them to do something, so he's bringing them together as a team and calling themselves the Doom Patrol, and for whatever it's going to fulfill. I mean, he's got sort of this semi-omniscient view of things, of the timeline, etc. So, maybe he needs them for something.
Right. So basically, at this point, now Crazy Jane, she is the one who is closest connected, I guess, to the chief, and now the chief is gone. Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, is she going to be, I guess, the Jean Grey to Professor X, basically? Is that what we're trying to think of?
I think it depends on the personality that shows up, right?
Right.
I'm interested to see what happens with Cyborg. Is he going to be around much longer? Is he going to stay? Is he gone? How does this impact? How do the results of the last episode? How does that sit with him and resonate with the rest of the team?
Right.
So he's got to reconcile all of that, and we still don't really know who that being is, the pure energy being. We still don't really know.
Oh, the negative man himself?
The negative man inside. Yeah. I kind of have this feeling like, is it actually just some sort of crazy being, or are they going to pull, it's actually somebody's spirit that was turned into something, and is it his gay lover? I don't know, right? So it's going to be interesting, and the more they scratch away at those layers too, it'll be pretty good.
That's interesting.
That's one where I think, and especially with him having, spoiler alert, especially with him having been in that machine for a little bit to kind of try to get some more perspective, I think there's a closer tie to Mr. Nobody there than anyone's willing to admit. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out.
Now, what's your thought on when we're talking about Crazy Jane, and you said you can't really get tired of her personalities? What do you think of Dr. Harrison?
She was awesome. She was awesome. And I didn't read a lot about it, so I don't know who all of the 64 personalities are. I don't know what all their powers are. So every time a new one comes out, it's a joy. It's a nice surprise and a joy because I get to enjoy this new thing that's being shown. And she was really cool. The fact that there's just this amazingly intelligent, persuasive professor that's so cool. She's easily the best character. Yeah.
Definitely. And, I love that her power is the power of persuasion. So it reminds me of someone from Heroes, but I can't remember who has that type of power. But anyways,
it's Matt Parkman.
That's right. That's what it is. Yep.
He ended up being super telepathic, but
right.
Yeah. But at first, that's how it manifested.
Right. Cool. Alrighty. So, I mean, good things for the Doom Patrol. I hope they wrap up the next 5 episodes for this season. The way they started the first 5 episodes, because if they do, I don't think they can do wrong. So, and I really hope that they do more tie-ins with the Titans for their next season too. So, and Titans next season. So
how good was the one scene, the last reference? Again, we're filling out the world when he's sitting there and Cyborg's famous and everyone's asking him about, are you in the Justice League? How's Batman? Do you know this guy? Like, that was really cool too.
I mean, that was more of like, it kind of sucks for Cyborg that he's just known for being in the Justice League. He's not known for being just Cyborg. But I mean, they kind of gave him some clout, right? But yeah, I get that. I want to hear more mention of my man Superman though, and so we don't get to hear much about Superman yet. We do hear mentions of Batman all the time from Titans and so on. So, all right. So I mean, let's move on from there, from Doom Patrol, and let's get into Suicide Squad. So, as we mentioned in the beginning of the episode in the introduction, so in Suicide Squad, there's been news of Idris Elba being the replacement for Will Smith as Deadshot. And also, many people already know that James Gunn had left Guardians of the Galaxy previously and was taken on by DC to direct Suicide Squad 2 as his first DC movie. Now, there was the issue, or I guess controversy behind that with Bautista, because Dave Bautista, being Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy, was saying that Gunn was the reason why he came into Hollywood or became a successful Hollywood actor. He owes a lot to him. So if Gunn's not going to be on Guardians of the Galaxies, neither was he, meaning the end of Drax. So he was saying that he was probably going to follow Gunn into the DC EU. So we were thinking, is Bautista going to get a role for him? Or is Gunn going to get a role for Bautista in the DCEU? Then, very, very recently, I would say about a day or two ago, Disney reneges on the Gunn firing issue. So that means him and Bautista are slated to be back on for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now, it's a lot of information. Let's dissect that one by one. So first, Idris Elba replacing Will Smith. What do you think?
Love it. I like Will Smith, but there's only so many times that I can watch him play himself in a movie.
Fair enough. Yep.
So I like Idris Elba a lot. I think he's a badass. I think that if anyone watched The Dark Tower, which by itself was a terrible movie, but he did a really good job in portraying this, tortured gunslinger. He'll be great. Yeah, fantastic.
My favorite is also his portrayal of, I can't remember his name, but the guy from Thor, who's the Guardian, who's like, yeah, that's his name. I love him. I also love Luther. So from the series Luther. So
yeah,
really, really, really awesome character. Really great actor. I'm wondering, what accent he's going to play, because he's British, right? So I wonder if he puts on, a good American accent to be Deadshot, or are they just going to make him play Deadshot with a British accent? So, what do you think?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
He could pull off either. I think it'll probably be the American accent, though. They don't want to go too far away, I think, from Will Smith. Mm-hmm. The thing that I'm really excited about him being on board is that I think that signals that darker turn into the movie. So, Suicide Squad was supposed to be this, dark and gritty with comedic elements, and it was like it did that. There's a noticeable difference in tone between Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And that was by design. I hope that Gunn is faithful to that tone and still has the comedic elements, because Gunn's sense of timing and for those sorts of things is really good. But I'm really, really hoping that dark gritty tone, and Idris Elba is able to pull that off really, really well. And to me, it sort of signals that that's what they're trying to do. Replacing Will Smith with Idris Elba, that's just dark and gritty all over it.
Cool. I like that. It's a good take. All right. So from the world of Deadshot, we'll move on to the world of directing. We go to James Gunn. Now, first, getting James Gunn onto this movie, now replacing, I can't even remember who the last person was, but, good riddance. Because the last one, oof. But James Gunn, coming from Guardians of the Galaxy, what do you think, he's going to bring to the table in terms of Suicide Squad?
I think he'll be able to create a more cohesive group. James Gunn just does this archetype really well. And, so I'm looking forward to better banter, better timing. I'm looking forward to slightly better chemistry. I'm looking forward to just like better visuals, better cinematography, right? And Guardians of the Galaxy, the spanning visuals, that you get they're just such a big part of the show. I expect a lot of that same sort of vision to come into Suicide Squad.
I'd love to see like sort of a panning shot, sort of like drone shots of battle scenes where you see all like the whole group of the Suicide Squad taking on another group of bad guys, and you see them all fighting at the same time. That'd be cool. Like rather than it just being sort of shaky cam stuff. But anyways,
I'm right on board with that.
Now, if we were to safely assume that Bautista would be following Gunn on whatever project he's doing in terms of the superhero worlds, superhero movies, could you think of a character that Bautista could play in the DCU?
See, I think he should play Killer Croc. Because the guy that played Killer Croc last time wasn't big enough, in my opinion. But I don't know. I don't know if he can. Like if Batista were quitting and basically saying, "Screw you, Marvel, I'm out. I'm going to DC with Gunn," then he could do the movie. But I have a feeling that if he's going to come back and do Guardians 3, I think there might be clauses in his contract which would prevent him from doing Suicide Squad. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out.
That would be interesting.
But he's Killer Croc for me for sure.
Yeah. The other person I thought of would be Bane, maybe. Also Batman villain, because he's big and bulky, right? The only thing is, like, can he put on a Mexican accent? So. Yeah,
and to me, Bane, the dramatic irony of Bane is that he's actually hyper intelligent. I don't know if Batista could pull it off.
I mean, Bautista, he's famous for being an awesome Drax because of the way Drax is. So, and also, it fits it perfectly, though. I mean, I guess
he doesn't have to act too hard.
I mean, on that note, let's segue back into Guardians of the Galaxy quickly then. So the fact that Guardians of the Galaxy is now back on with Gunn and Bautista back as, back as to the way it originally was. What do you think of that whole reneging issue, first of all?
Well, the reality is the reason that he was fired in the first place was garbage.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
the whole social media stuff from like way back when.
Yeah. And so if that's the reason for the firing, then there's... I think that it was just a change in the guard, and somebody went, "What the hell are we doing?" And just got their heads together. Anytime a turnaround like this happens, it more often than not means somebody in some high office somewhere got replaced with someone else, and they just decided to change their mind. So I'm super glad they did. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is still in my top 5. Probably top 3 movies of Marvel of all time. So,
oh, really? You liked 1 more than 2? Yeah. I like 2 pretty good. Really?
2's good, but 1's better.
Okay, fair enough. All right. I mean, I personally like 2 just because of the Drax lines, because I think Drax got better as a character in Guardians 2. But then he also got better in, was it Thor Ragnarok? Is where he made where they made a cameo too, right? I can't remember.
No, it was Infinity War, I think.
He was in the Avengers. Okay. I mean, yeah, I'm just happy that Bautista's back as Drax, because that'd be really, really hard shoes to fill, to find someone else.
Agreed.
All right, so.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that speaks really highly to Gunn too, right? Through the casting process and how they've done it. I mean, I literally couldn't envision any other actors playing the characters for Guardians. I just couldn't.
Fair enough.
So that speaks volumes.
Man, while we're on the topic of the Guardians, I guess I'll give a shout out to Mantis as my favorite actress on the show, because she's a fellow Canadian as well. So I mean, when I see a Canadian actress doing well, that makes me proud. So, but I really like Mantis's character. She's cute, so that's cool.
She's really good, yeah. And her and Drax together is just hilarious,
right? All right. So, I mean, in terms of Marvel, let's move on to Captain Marvel. So we both watched the movie recently. Me, literally about 6 hours ago. So, first of all, we're going to talk about general thoughts, favorite parts, characters, anything we liked or didn't like, and what we're expecting from the Marvel cinematic universe going forward. And then, I guess, an overall rating out of 10. So actually, we'll lump in the rating with the general thoughts. So first of all, rating. What would you give this movie?
So I need to preface this by saying I'm really biased. Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, is one of my favorite comic book characters. And as a result, I'm a little bit more predicated towards enjoying this. But still, that said, super entertaining movie. My daughter came out of it. I went to take my 7-year-old out to see it, and she loved it. She thought this is just the best superhero movie she's ever seen. And to me, that's awesome. So I think overall, it was really super entertaining. The visuals were great. So a lot of the performances were amazing. So yeah, I mean, it's easily an 8.5 out of 10 from an enjoyment standpoint for me. But I think that if you start to kind of pick away at the technical aspects and start to look at things like how was the plot written and really kind of break it down mechanically, it's probably a solid 7.
Right. So I would say that in terms of expectations, now I was talking to you about this earlier on, and then I was talking to other people and listening to reviews about it. And I think that from a movie standpoint, and not just a superhero standpoint, but just a movie and breaking it down in terms of its cinematic elements and acting, directing, and so on and so forth, I would agree with you. It's around the 7 range, maybe even go lower to 6, because there were some elements just kind of, there's places where things fell short and they made up for it in other things. Like I would give a certain category maybe 9 out of 10, but another category like 4 or 5 out of 10, for example. So the average would be somewhere like 6 to 7. But when you take it as a Marvel movie and when you take it as a superhero movie, I think it meets most expectations. It gives you that epic feel. It gives you that satisfaction. It gives you that origin story that you want, and it gives you that development of the characters. It gives you some comedic aspects, especially with the characters that connect from other things like the Avengers, Nick Fury being a big part of the movie, obviously. So they did a good job piecing in things that the fans would enjoy and then making it a good time. It was a very, very good time, and then at the end, they brought it back to reality. So I think overall, I would give this movie, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10, not being biased, but like considering everything. So I would say it's slightly above a 7, mainly because I'm a superhero fan and I enjoy these type of things, but I could see it being lower. So, now, in the last episode, when we were talking about the trailer, you were kind of on the notion that it's probably going to be like the Wonder Woman origin movie and how they brought together the Justice League stuff at the end near the credits. And this was exactly what happened, right, for the Avengers in this case.
Odd that.
So it's like they found a formula that works and they decide to use it themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
but there were some things about this movie that I really, really enjoyed and that were super on point for me. The fact that this was basically a buddy cop film set in the 90s with aliens was amazing. Samuel L. Jackson, again, turns out a fantastic performance, steals the show. The fact that they used all the special effects to de-age him 20 years was epic. It was like literally watching Samuel L. Jackson walk off the set of
Pulp Fiction.
Walk off the set of Pulp Fiction and right into our hearts again.
Right. And Phil Coulson too. Phil Coulson looked really young too, right? So
yeah, he did. So that was like easily one of my favorite parts. But I think that the piece that's going to go sort of underappreciated is how good the score was.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, the music was so good.
All of the music, because they're in the 90s when this happens, all of the music is from the 90s. It was such a throwback. It was so good.
There was no doubt. Not Gwen Stefani, kids, no doubt. Go look that up. There was no doubt, and there was all this like random, oh my
garbage,
god. Garbage.
Like,
oh my god, yeah, garbage was in there. Yeah, also, guys, go look up Garbage. Garbage is a very, very good band. It's funny. quick tangent here on garbage, because when I moved to Japan, I didn't know, too many people that knew some of these minor bands. And one of the reasons why I married my wife is because one of her favorite bands is Garbage.
Nice.
You wouldn't find many Japanese people that knew Garbage. So there you go.
Nice.
Anyways, so back on to now Captain Marvel. I personally think that there was a lot of great subtleties and subtle references to just retro things, I guess nostalgic things for people like us who grew up in the 80s and 90s, right? And that really hit home for me. It's part of the reason why I really appreciated the movie. Now, in terms of the character development in the movie, I mean, do you have a favorite character? Is it Brie Larson, or is there someone else that you like?
Well, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson was the best character.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about non-Samuel L. Jackson, I mean, I feel like Brie Larson was the right casting pick for Captain Marvel, especially this sort of the way that they've chosen to represent her in this movie, and going the Captain Marvel route instead of the Ms. Marvel route. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I really enjoyed her aesthetic. I enjoyed the fact that she was sort of this smart-ass, grumpy, like just a really terse character in that regard, and I thought that was really cool. She had a lot of really good lines, and I think her attitude was kind of solid. But I feel like the only drawback I have to her is I feel like she kind of turned in her Kristen Stewart performance.
Okay, I see.
She's capable of so much more as an actress, and I don't know whether it's indicative of how the script was run or whether she was still trying to figure it out or whatever. But I feel like she could have probably done a little bit better in the acting field. But again, when it counted in the moments that were those like big climactic turning points, like she delivered, like we were all cheering for her. So I mean, at the end of it, did she do a bad job? So
right now, I think I'm right on there with you. There's a few scenes I feel like she was phoning it in, but then again, is it her fault or is the script's fault, right? And then, like you said, there were those scenes where people, like my friend and I, we're like the only two non-Japanese people in the theater. There are scenes when we're like upright, like we're gonna stand up and start clapping, right? Like, whoa, this is awesome. But we were sort of like soft cheering, not to sort of like raise any commotion. So, right. Yeah. But anyways, I feel like the movie it really hit the right notes when you wanted it to. So as a comic book fan, you really appreciated certain things. Now, and the epicness behind a lot of the battle scenes, like when she's in space, that's just, awesome. And
so good.
Yeah.
When she's sitting there at the very end, right in front of the ship.
Yeah.
And just like
the thunderclap.
Come get it. Yeah. Come get this. I was just like, oh gosh.
All right. And spoiler alert. All right. 2-second spoiler alert. That scene, and Ronan just turns around and is like, okay, we'll come back. We'll be back.
Yeah. We all remember how much of a badass Ronan was.
Right? So now here's the thing that my buddy brought up. When he was sort of relating this to the Justice League movie, sort of as a comparison. Now, if we're thinking she's like Wonder Woman to the Justice League, now that in terms of the Avengers movie coming up, think of it also as Superman too. So her suddenly showing up to save the day in Infinity War is what we're expecting, right? In Endgame. Now, should that be the case, remember back in the Justice League scene where Superman basically shows up and just, rips Steppenwolf a new one. And it was like, that was just call it a day, right? It was a little bit too OP in that sense, right? So he's worried that the way that they're portraying her in her epicness here is sort of like how they portrayed Superman in that sense, that there's no one that can really stand against her, and she turned the whole tide of ships all the way back around, and they went with their tails between they went running with their tails between their leg, right? So sure. I'm wondering, is that what's going to be what we're expecting for Endgame, and Endgame's going to be an hour and a half long, and we're done,
So I think it's interesting. It's a good point, actually. But what's really interesting, I think, is when you have to consider the relative power level, right? So we lost a pile of the characters to the snap, right? And we know obviously that like some of the other characters, like Scarlet Witch, like Vision, Captain Marvel basically got her powers from an Infinity Stone.
Right. The Tesseract.
Right.
So
the Tesseract.
The Space Stone?
So,
right?
The Space Stone. Yeah. So what's interesting in that regard is that sort of determines her power ceiling. I mean, in Infinity War, like Thor went through a monster power up, right? Like at the end of Ragnarok and then into Infinity War, I mean, he got jacked up, and Thor is still, even this incarnation of Thor is still more powerful than Captain Marvel, I believe. But
with the axe,
you know, he may not. Oh yeah, for sure. But like Thor by himself has already been demonstrated that he's not strong enough to do it by himself. So if you get another Thor level character in the mix, now they may have a shot.
So it's like you have Superman and Eradicator.
Yeah. She's supposed to come in and sort of inherit the mantle of inevitable leadership of the Avengers, right? Like we know that Cap's done after Endgame. So
was that in whatever way
they decide.
So is that what we're expecting going forward? Because Chris Evans is going to be signing off, then we're like, all right, let's kill off Captain America, and then here's Captain Marvel to pick up the literal helm.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I expect to see going forward.
I mean, she has the American colors too, right? That was part of the shtick where they're showing how she was picking her uniform colors, right? So,
God, that scene was actually really good.
That was awesome. It was very, very well done.
Yeah,
so I really appreciate it. We were like, yeah, woohoo! It reminded me of the Aquaman scene where he gets his uniform too, right? It's kind of the same feeling.
Agree.
Right.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I mean, now, spoiler alert again. 2-second spoiler alert. So. For those who have watched the movie and stayed to the end of the credits, we see that she shows up post-page. We see the other end of the page, basically, and we see the Avengers trying to keep the pager alive, and then it just sort of shuts off, and then she shows up, right? Now, what do we expect going forward from that scene? So are we thinking Avengers Endgame is going to pick up from there?
So, have you seen the new trailer for Endgame?
No, I should go watch that now.
Yeah.
But okay, tell me anyways. Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, so she shows up and they just they kind of tack onto that interaction. And I mean, they piece these things geniusly, right? Like you can't really tell when anything actually happens. But she's there and they're all talking, like Black Widow, Cap, Thor, and Captain Marvel are all kind of talking. And Thor is like really macho, kind of like stepping up to her, stepping up to Brie. And he kind of steps up and he reaches his right hand sort of just past her head. And the axe comes and just like dives into his hand right beside her head. And she doesn't even like flinch or blink at all. And he's like, he gets it and he puts it down and he smiles. He's like, I like her. So there's going to be a lot of that, which I think is good. But no, I absolutely believe her just showing up and being like, "Where's Fury?" Really kind of sets the tone. She is absolutely like she's a soldier, right? Like she's a real soldier, and I think that's something that eventually Cap can get in line with, right? Because obviously he has his own war history, right? So I think that she's gonna be a big fit, and I don't know if it'll pick up right exactly at that minute because there's a lot going on in the universe, right? We don't know where Tony is. I mean, obviously how does he get to the spaceship from being on the planet? There's that starting point. There's the rest of the world starting point. There's the Thanos starting point. Who knows? There's also Scott Lang, right? Like you got Ant-Man still in the quantum zone. Like who knows where they're going to go in terms of picking it up? But
we do know he gets out of the quantum zone because he's there with his van in front of their headquarters. That's right. At that point. It's like, we know so I think they're going to show us how he gets out of the quantum zone because obviously he's there now. So I figured they're going to do some sort of backpedaling, catching up, and then I guess maybe in the half an hour before the 1 hour mark, we'll get to now everybody's here. What do we do, right? So I think that's a solid assessment. I think that time frame actually will line up exactly. Yeah. Alrighty. So let's hope Endgame works out well, and also Shazam for next month. So we got a lot of stuff to catch up on. So I would expect now here in Japan, Endgame comes out first. I think Endgame is released the same day everywhere in the world. So I'll be watching that on release day. as most people
My
will be.
birthday.
Yeah. And so I think that the next time we do the Watchtower, we'll definitely be talking about the Endgame at the very least. Shazam, I might be watching at the beginning of May. So we might have to do that on the May's Watchtower episode. But just things to look forward to. All right. So anything else left to be said about what we've talked about today?
All right, that's it, man. I've pretty much covered it.
All right. So it was a good episode. So, guys, again, if you guys have any comments or suggestions or anything you want to say about the Watchtower and how we're doing things, just let us know in the comments down below, whether it's on YouTube or SoundCloud or iTunes or Google Play Music. You know, we appreciate all criticism. And yeah, all right. So with that, we'll call it a night and hope this helps. See you guys later.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of WROL Broadcasts, a subsidiary of the Oddsman and We Are Legends. To view additional content and support the show, please go to patreon.com/WROL Broadcasts.